radio.com around the world and maybe even in the space station, where we have a conversation about the happenings of religion, culture, and the guests on this radio program. Joined in studio by theologian Tony Jones. Tony Jones is a freelance theologian, as he describes himself. You can find him around the internet, TonyJones.com. And Tony, among other things in his life, makes predictions about what's going to happen in religion on this radio program.
I have an annual. This is my second annual appearance.
This is your second, yeah. So we now get to test his guesswork of what the big religion news stories were going to be. And in 2009, we asked Tony to tell us, hey, what were the big religion news stories of 2009, and what do you think the big news stories are going to be of 2010? Because religion is an important part of our world. It's underreported, it's underappreciated quite often, but it's significant nonetheless. And so we've asked Tony if he would tell us what was going on and what does he think is going to be going on. So we're going to get a little recap of the top 5 predictions, of the prediction of the 5 big news stories.
There were 5. Yeah, there were 5 things I predicted would happen in 2010 in American religion. Ready?
And are we going to go with number 5 or number 1? How are we counting down?
I didn't really do them that way.
All right, we'll call this number 5. All right, so number 5.
Number 5 was, and this is the one I think that I'm the most correct about.
Okay, then we should have made it number 1, but that's all right.
I can go the other way. Let me go the other way. We'll end with the one I was most correct about.
Yes.
Here we go.
People are they're just going to be waiting with bated breath.
I said this. I said a handful of evangelical leaders are going to come out in support of more openness to GLBT persons in the church.
Okay, so your big pick was there's going to be more evangelicals that say, look, gay, lesbian people.
More evangelical leaders. Like I thought, and I was wrong, this didn't happen. I thought that there would be 1 or 2 or a handful, is how I said it last year, of evangelical, kind of known evangelical leaders would come out and say, I support same-sex union, or I think gays should not be pastors, but they can be deacons, or anything. Something. And nobody did.
No, but maybe now, maybe just in the last week
Doug,
or 2, after Don't Ask, Don't Tell, maybe they're going to be like, the military leads us.
I want to get to that. I want to get to that because,
saying you might still be right.
We might. That's true. It may still happen. And here's what I'd say on that one. And I'll tell you in a few minutes what the Religion News Service said are the top 10 stories of religion in 2010. And they didn't say this because it hadn't happened when they came out with their top 10 list. I think it's really noteworthy the lack of uproar from religious conservatives over the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to talk about that in the Right On segment. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think the silence is deafening.
Yes.
Like it was 2 years ago that we had Rick Warren giving a last-minute video appeal to pass Prop 8.
Yep.
And we had the Mormon Church pumping like tens of millions of dollars into California to pass Prop 8. Yeah. So religious conservatives, as recently as 2 years ago, cared enough about this issue to make it a big deal. Like Rick Warren was willing to risk his reputation to film this video, right, and post it online. And he took a lot of heat for it. But
it was all because of marriage.
It was worth it, right? It was worth it for him. And you're right, conservatives care very much about the military. It's a core institution of our society.
Yeah.
And it's been nothing. Like, where's James Dobson decrying this today?
Crickets.
So.
Yep. All right. So prediction number 1. One of the 5 predictions was that an evangelical leader would come out in support of gay and lesbian inclusion in the church, but didn't quite happen as of yet. And number 4.
Number 4 is Rick Warren's influence will lessen.
Who?
Yeah, and that a new, younger evangelical leader would start to rise up to be the new spokesperson of evangelicalism. And I don't think it really happened, although I think a lot of people are looking to Francis Chan as a leader, as a spokesperson of evangelicalism. And this is going to tie into one of my predictions of 2011, that I think there will be a lot of media talk about this in 2011, who's the spokesperson of, and that's just a teaser for after the break.
Okay.
Okay.
Segment number 2, or section number 2 here with Tony Jones. He's going to tell you who he thinks it's going to be. He's going to break the news right here on this radio program. So don't touch that dial. Number 3 prediction.
I thought that universalism, Christian universalism, would become an increasingly important topic to Christians to discuss. Whereas a couple years ago, as you and I well know, there was a lot of talk about the atonement, and there were fights between people like Christian leaders like N.T. Wright and John Piper bickering back and forth each other about that issue. I think the next issue that's going to pop for evangelicals to say what that's theological is this. And it hasn't quite yet, but I'm going to start blogging about it next month, and then maybe it will.
You're going to make it a reality. Number 3, your number 4 prediction.
The Pope, I said, the Pope had a tough year in 2009.
Yeah.
And I said in 2010...
Popeness was tough in 2009.
Right. He had a tough 2008 and 2009. He was saying mean things about Muslims that he had to recant and things like this. I said he was going to have a non-controversial year in 2010, and he did. He did almost nothing controversial. He didn't make any.
You hardly heard a news story about the Pope.
He didn't like really make any. He wasn't. He's making his first trip to China or meeting with his first ever Buddhist priest. He didn't do anything like that. The only thing that caused a little bit of a blip is when he kind of a little bit said that maybe it would be okay for HIV positive male prostitutes to wear condoms.
Yeah, right.
That was it.
That's a pretty low bar. If that's all he was doing was causing that trouble.
It's a baby step.
He barely made the news other than that. And for that to make the news, for him to do that, was like religion reporters were looking
for something.
For him to say something.
Okay, so you were right about that one. You got that one right. The Pope laid low. And the number 1 prediction from 2000, at the start of 2010, from our religion prognosticator, Tony Jones, was...
I said that political correctness toward Islam would decrease.
People would become less...
I said all this, even George W. used to, Islam is a religion of peace, and da-da-da. And I think that's absolutely true. And that ties us in till after the break, because the number 1 religion news story, as voted on by the Religion News Writers Association, the New York City Mosque.
Oh, really?
Yep. And
that was the number 1 story.
And the vitriol against Islam that was ginned up particularly by Fox News as well as by a lot of conservatives is like, I think you didn't hear Republican senators getting up and saying, look, Islam is a religion of peace. They were saying that after 9/11. They weren't saying that in 2010. So I think there has been that kind of, we need to at least publicly be politically correct toward Islam. I think that it really faded in 2010.
It faded away. And you predicted that would be so.
I did.
So after in our second segment, after we hear the top 10 news stories of this last year, as brought to us by the Associated Press, we're going to get the predictions for what you think 2011 is going to bring us.
Yep.
And I predict that you will be right on 4 out of the 5.
But I'm only doing 3.
My prediction is that the predictor is going to be right on 4 out of 5, and that's problematic because you're only doing 3.
Maybe I can come up with 2 more during the break.
Because you've decided to ratchet back a little bit all the predictions that you're making. All right, so before we go to the break, tell us about these top news stories as voted on by the Associated Press.
The Religion News Writers Association. Yeah, actually.
All right, so
here's what you want me to just list them off. We can talk about them after the break if you want to.
Yeah, tell
any
us
of you want to. The New York City Mosque, and they get really like, oh, really? This was a big religion. I mean, boring, right?
Yeah.
The next one, the religious response to the Haiti earthquake. How's that a religion story? So I'm telling you, they're stretching. The Catholic clergy sex abuse and cover-up. A lot. It kind of went dark in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what? I just read this morning. There are alive today 5,800 priests in the Catholic Church in America who've been defrocked for sexual impropriety. Not one of them is registered as a registered sex offender because they weren't prosecuted. They just were defrocked and sent back into private life. 5,800.
Huh, 5,800 of them. Number 3, news story?
The rise of the Tea Party. Is a religious story. But
I guess it's a religious
they keep
story.
saying they're not religious, and then the Pew does
that
it.
thing's over with.
Okay, the Obama health care bill.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. The religious response to it. The denominational debates on GLBT issues.
All right. Hey, you almost wonder. You can almost see why people don't cover religion.
Yeah, boring, right? Here's a good one, though. The bankruptcy of the Crystal Cathedral.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gay teen suicides.
Wow.
And the religious response to
I
that.
haven't read any of those. We got 3 more, right?
2 more. The Pew Forum survey that came out a couple months ago that showed that most atheists know more about Christianity than Christians do. Yeah. Like the history of Christianity and the theology of it.
Right. It's almost like if you know the history, you wouldn't be an adherent.
And then finally that there's no Protestant on the Supreme Court for the first time in history. Those are the top 10 religion
Those are the top 10 religion news stories. You know what, religious people? We need to make more news. We need to make better news. Maybe the problem isn't the religion reporters. Maybe the problem is
Switch
those of
it
us.
up a bit.
Yeah, we got to make a little magic, make a little news. Yeah, I mean, LeBron James got a whole hour to talk about what he was up to, and he just switched teams. Maybe we should make a little news. Hey, we're going to be back here with Tony Jones. We're going to talk about these news stories, and we're going to make some predictions about 2011. So if you want to think about what 2011 is going to bring through the lens of big news stories, we're going to be talking about that. And then we'll be joined by natural health coach Shelley Pagitt. And then the right on your week before the high holiday. We'll be back here on AM 950, the voice of Minnesota, after the break.